I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? I don't need your hope, I don't need your love, I don't need your praise. Oh, I'm okay. So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? And everybody just running around trying to hold on to their 15 minutes. They all reach out for someone else to lean on. And I'm gonna make it, no I will not fake it, but I'ma just take it any way that I can. But I don't need anybody to lean on. So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? I don't need your hope, I don't need your love, I don't need your praise. Oh, I'm okay. So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? And I don't want to fight this war alone, but I just cannot help myself. Jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? I don't need your hope, I don't need your love, I don't need your praise. Oh, I'm okay. So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say? I don't need your hope, I don't need your love, I don't need your praise. Oh, I'm okay. So I'm gonna jump, 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 jump into the fray. What can I say?
See how I go with that one.
Awesome.
Some days it's more positive than others.
Absolutely. I believe we're live in social media land. So welcome to, I think we're up to episode 6. I could be wrong. Whereas you can tidy it up in the comments. But we're here in our humble studio, Belladose Music. We're in the live room. And I have
Epicenter.
I call him the ever charismatic gentleman from Lizottes in Newcastle. I want everyone to welcome Mr. Brian Lizot. How are you,
doing?
mate?
I'm fabulous, Lenny. Thanks for having me on tonight. It's a pleasure.
I really appreciate your input and coming to help us out and talk about everything creative, because I know you're a pretty creative guy. But I start with the same conversation and question every week to the people that come in and sit on the couch. We want to talk about Brian Lizot. So my first question to you, you can take this on any angle you like, bro. Who is Brian Lizot?
He's a very complex character. No. Who am I? I guess I'm a restaurateur that supports that can't live without great food and great music. I suppose and I'm a family man and I'm a grandfather now, and I'm a person that's very passionate about some of the most passionate things that people are passionate about, and that's food, music, and family.
Excellent.
So I guess those three things I'd like to be known as.
Yep. Can you give us a bit more? That was, straightforward to the point, because we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But that's you, Brian. And
my history with hospitality, I mean, when I finished high school, I knew the bell went off and hospitality came into the mind. I mean, I was always brought up as a music minded person at home. My dad and my whole family was very musical, and so we had a lot of music that just, you know, used to resonate in the house, and and it was always family meals, and then back to playing an instrument of some sort. My dad had a motto that there was always one extra instrument in the house, and there was children. And if that instrument stayed for too long sitting in a corner and not being played, he'd take that and disappear one day and off to the music store, and it'd be replaced with another instrument of some sort. So one minute the sax would be gone, and then the oboe would appear, and that wouldn't last long. So yeah, we did that for a long time. So I guess music's always been there, but then I really realised that food, hospitality was my thing. So I went in to do a hotel management diploma course and finished that, and then that started my world of cooking and looking after people on the hospitality side. Travelled the world, did a lot of travelling overseas, and all that time coming back always and seeing my younger brother, who was still living in our house, see how he was evolving with his music career. And so I had a real big interest in Mark's career for a lot of for his early days. Took him to his first audition and things like that. So it was a pleasure to see his passion for music. And so I worked in restaurants. I would go be the first one to clock off that night and go straight to a gig and watch him play. And so it was a good relationship like that, and hospitality sort of steadfasted me around the world to learn my career, and then coming back to Australia, I met my my brother's girlfriend at the time, Jep, and who was now he's been married to for many years. But we started a business at Rhinoceros Recording Studio, which was one of Australia's most famous recording studios, owned by In Excess at the time, and several other investors. And we started cooking for the cream of the world's entertainment industry through that studio, and that led to music shoots and concert catering, and the rest is history. We created a company called More Than a Morsel, and we were rock and roll caterers for and had virtually a monopoly on all of the concerts and the venues around Sydney, and we ended up travelling nationally with rock bands and doing all sorts of catering for the music industry. So that's how that started.
I've got a few questions to ask you about some of those things that you may have already seen but done. That's awesome. I'm just going to tail back quickly. That first audition, how did he go?
Oh, he got the gig.
He got the gig?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He it was a band called Innocent Bystanders. I don't know whether it was called that to start off with, but that's what it ended up being called when the band, and they recorded and everything. And so yeah, there's they recorded a full record, I believe, and there was some good songs on that part of things. But then Mark wasn't singing at the time during that; he was just playing guitar. So
Can play.
Oh, he's been known to break a few strings.
So for those viewers that are out there, if anyone has any questions for Brian, speak up in the chat portal, and Wes will get back to me, and we'll throw a few of those questions into the fray later on in the feed. But I'm looking at my cues here, and 1963, you were born in the US. Now, I didn't know, okay, so excuse my ignorance, but you're one of seven.
A Yank, and one of seven children. Most of us live in Australia now, back in Australia, but I've still got a sister and over in the United States. But it was tough growing up with seven kids. I mean, we had a very happy childhood and a good family, and as I said, music stuck us all together for sure.
So Dad had the fishing hook out, and on the end of that fishing hook was a different instrument, and one of you would take the bait eventually.
Oh yeah, we took. I mean, Mark's first instrument wasn't guitar; it was actually cello.
Yes, I read that.
Or maybe trombone even. He says that it was trombone, but and then I've been known to terrorise people with a trombone from time to time, and that was my claim, and I still will go to my grave wanting to be a better trombone player. That's for sure.
I've actually got a cool story about that later. I'm going to share with some folks. Okay, so that's awesome. So we know you've got a hospitality background. Those may not know the early days. So let's focus on some of the history of Brian Lizot. You did your diploma in catering, restaurant catering. My first question to you is trying to come up with some cool stuff to talk about. In 1992, you were the personal touring chef for the Beach Boys National Australian Tour.
Yes.
Oh, come on. The Beach Boys.
Well, yeah, you talk about my American heritage and all of my, because I was the sixth child of seven. So I grew up basically being brought up by my older sister Janine, who's one, is just the most incredible woman and still is, as young as she ever was, and she's just a party girl. And Beach Boys would have been one of her most favourite ever bands. And I remember growing up to Beach Boys albums and whatnot. So a lot of that music that I've been tainted with all these years is thanks to my older brothers and sisters. Listening there as a child, that they'd be whacking on albums one after the other, and playing to them as well. So the Beach Boys, when I finally got one of Australia's most prominent production managers, Swampy Jarvis. If anybody's out there listening that knows anything about the rock and roll industry, if you Google Swampy Jarvis, he's probably one of the most famous production men and stalwarts of the rock and roll crew, the rock and roll roadies of Australian history. Anyway, we got along very, very well over the years with my catering, and he rang me up and he says, we're doing this tour and we want you to be the personal chef for the Beach Boys on their tour. And
just
I was
this tour.
Wow, okay, I could handle that, no problems at all. So that was my first initial, that was one of my first touring positions, and I took that on with great vigour. And those guys were, they were very health conscious at the time. I think, I can't even remember his name, is John Stamos? Famous actor.
Yes.
He was actually the drummer at the time, because he's a drummer as well, and so he was playing drums at the time. And I got a feeling that was a couple of other guys, and they were all on the wagon, and it was quite a staunchly, but they were very health conscious. So it was great because I got a chance to cook some good food, and we brought a cappuccino machine on the road with them and put that side of stage so they'd all have shots of espresso before they go on, and it was good fun.
Back before the personal home cappuccino machine became a thing, you took one on the road.
Oh yeah, I was the first caterer ever to road case a cappuccino machine, believe it or not.
Awesome.
So we had a lot of fun with that thing, and there wasn't always a dry night. There was always a few nights where there would be a little stash. The third drawer always had a couple of little special accompaniments for the coffee as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about highlights? Is there a highlight from that tour?
Probably musically wise or funny wise, it was just that. It was like, we'd get on stage with the dry tour, and there'd always be the third drawer would come out. So I always remember having to be the naughty one and administer a couple of shots here and there for the guys that weren't supposed to be having any.
The instigator of fun.
Yes.
And you think that, light's not the word, but was there any sort of anxiety or any moments of, what did I get myself into here? Or you went in with vigour?
The hardest part, I guess, back in those days, and it's probably, it doesn't happen as much anymore because we're the music industry. They travel on their stomachs and always have. And so as a music caterer for international touring bands and anything, touring, it was always hard to get out of the doldrums of the VB and cabanossi and crackers and jats and cheese on a platter and thrown into a dressing room. Or often it was a toilet that was, masking as a dressing room, as a green room. So back in those days, it was always a challenge to make something out of nothing, to make the artist more comfortable. So I guess that was the biggest thing in some of the dressing rooms and some of the catering facilities that we were challenged with, was just that. It was incredibly challenging. So the road case, it grew quite quickly with props and different things that I collected along the way, and we'd often get to a place where there would be a stark room that was fluoro lights, and the fluoros would be the first thing to go.
Yep.
I remember one day with In Excess on that tour, we had some of the band just hated fluorescent lights, and they got, we were whacking, fluoro lights, and one day they broke a fluoro, and so I had to spend, half an hour bloody, vacuuming and cleaning up the bloody, but the whole thing was no fluoros, and so just atmospheric, get the rooms, get the backstage, to be a place that there's a home away from home, and same with the dining room, and that was the whole thing with catering for the music industry was a real, challenge in trying to give them places that they could call home backstage.
Yeah, awesome. Is there one particular memory from that sticks in your mind?
With which particular tour?
The 92 tour with the Beach Boys.
With the Beach Boys?
One thing that you always come back to that you distinctly remember as a memory.
Well, I'd have to say a picture I took of my daughter, Sammy, who's now a very famous, or very successful production manager in her own right, and has toured with Elton John for 7 years, and was Jeff. So she's done a lot of touring with all sorts of. She's also working with the Blues Festival and everything. But I got a chance to take her on that tour. It was a trip to Perth at least, where my parents were.
Yep.
So I said, could I take my youngest daughter to Perth? And she was about 3 at that stage.
Okay.
Three and a half. And I remember vividly her sitting on a Beach Boys case. The photo has the Beach Boys thing, and she's sitting on that case with a little denim jacket on, smiling and laughing and making a gesture. And it's the best photo, and that will be in my mind. And to see her on stage with John Stamos playing, and the Beach Boys out there, singing Up a Storm, and it was that probably was a good memory.
What a cool story!
Yeah.
Because being creative and listening to music, there's always music takes you back to a particular time. I'm going to guess perhaps that there's a song that triggers that memory. No?
With the Beach Boys?
The photo.
Or the photo?
Is there a song that takes you back to then, or is that just a particular memory?
I'm not really good with song titles. I always get my tongue tied, and that's just
you
what
get your
happens.
words mixed up.
But good vibrations, I suppose.
Excellent.
Yeah.
93.
Yes.
You were the personal chef for In Excess's X Factor tour.
Yeah, so again, I was hot off the press of being personal chef, so I suppose this one rolled into the other. But because we'd toured with, because I started with In Excess at Rhino and got to know the guys very, very well, and we'd cook 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week, and one year I cooked for them for about 200 days of that year, with touring, recording, doing photo shoots, film shoots, and video shoots, and whatever. So we got to know each other pretty well, and I'm really proud to sort of take them around the world on cuisine destinations. So yeah, we spent an enormous amount of time in the studio, and so by the time they asked me to come out on the road and coordinate the catering again, that was pretty special. I took 3 chefs with me on that one, and we'd coordinate with each catering company in every city. And so that was a hugely memorable. They were very much into their food as well. There was party, but they always, food meant a lot to that band, and so for that I was always grateful. A lot of bands sort of, that I catered for and put a lot of effort into, and the dressing room, I'd go back in at the end of the night and there'd be nothing eaten, or they very little interest in food.
Okay.
With
Because
some bands, only some.
I often bring in excess up, being an educator and talking, with production, with sound production crew, and talking to the students about what's involved in getting that stuff together. And the writer comes up a lot, the band writer.
Oh yeah.
Is it true that their band writer was pretty full on?
Oh yeah. There'd be, and every band, they're allowed, and it's what we found after catering for so many years is that the writer's very important as a staple when you're travelling worldwide and travelling. It gives some sort of direction to a caterer to look after and get them what they feel comfortable and what they. So whereas when you're touring and when I got specifically, that's all I did was look after bands. I knew which ones I could cut and which corners I could take and which substitutes I could take. So that even to the start, I'll never forget getting a couple of different writers for Aerosmith, for instance, and they specifically asked for all sorts of specific ingredients. And because I had a sister in America, I used to say, okay, well, can you send me, some this and that and this, and so it was costing me a fortune to get all this stuff sent back in those days. Now most of that stuff is all available in Australia anyway, and it was those days of Evian water and Perrier, and had to be specific, on the left hand side of the and particular brand of something that had to be or whatever. But you get used to the request. So yeah, it became pretty hairy, and riders can be very expensive if you're doing and then for the wastage factor as well, because half of them don't eat anything and drink anything, and so it was but we just got to know what they liked, and I think
Any tantrums?
oh, lots of tantrums for all sorts of bands.
Precious?
Lots of precious moments. Courtney Love throwing full trays of sandwiches across the room at big day outs and all sorts of things. So I could go on forever. But by and large, I think a lot of the time, most musicians and most of these touring artists, they're all very happy to just get looked after and have that the pleasure of having a caterer, especially a caterer on the road. But yeah, I think it's more the cotton wool that's packed around them a lot of the times. A lot of the security and a lot of the management and a lot of that side of things that build it up a little bit more than what it actually is for that artist, because they're just wanting to make sure that there's that buffer that they don't go without. Kind of
And
thing.
with that sort of budget, they've got to get looked after. So
Yeah,
of course.
I mean, promoters in Australia entrusted us to make sure that they were looked after. So you're being paid to look after people. So no skimping.
The catering here tonight's not so good, but we're getting by.
My green tea is most fabulous.
Excellent. 1998 was a pretty hefty year. We mentioned a couple of names earlier in conversation, but National Catering Coordinator for Billy Joel and Elton John's national tour, as well as U2's national tour.
Yeah.
That's a
I wrote in my book a story, the only cookbook that I've done and the only one that I probably will do, but I'm very proud of it. But there's a story about that particular time in my life and my catering career, is getting and having the pleasure of and I was very proud to have just about every promoter in the country use our services, and so I was very staunch about wanting to do the right thing by every promoter and make sure that if I was available, I gave it my all and we do the best possible job we could, and that's why we did so well, because we got along with everybody. Everybody was our friends. There wasn't anybody that we couldn't feed. We'll feed anyone. You know? And we'll look after anyone. So, but when two major promoters in the country, which was at the time Frontier and Michael Koppel Presents, Frontier doing Billy Joel and Elton John, and Michael Koppel doing U2, the phone call came about 2 days apart of me agreeing to do Billy Joel and Elton John on a national basis, and knew I had the crew, knew I had the road cases, knew I had the firepower and the manpower to do that, and was very proud, and thought, yeah, wow, this is going to be amazing. And then getting the phone call to do U2 and having to say exactly the same thing as I just said to the other promoter, no problem, we've got all the everything. And so hanging the phone up and going,
What have I just done?
it was pretty stressful. Yeah, so we morphed into two, and I built some of the most incredible catering team, and all of those guys they're all still out there, not necessarily catering anymore, but they'll all remember with fond hearts of what good times we had. You know, it was we were pioneering basically the catering industry back in those days. We were the first caterer in Australia to take, you know, a couple of dozen road cases on tour. With cappuccino machines, and we had soft serve ice cream machines in bloody road cases. We did everything. We basically set up in the middle of a green field and would cater for 200 and 300 people, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a week. So, or over a 3-week period. So, it was great, you know, and having that many staff out on the road and the stories we've, you know, will always be one of the best years of my life.
Positivity, like, yes, we can do that, hang up the phone, now I've got to sort all that out. Yeah. That's big commitment, can-do attitude. Yeah. Absolutely. 2009, I'm going to skip a bit of time there because we could talk here for 3 hours. You opened Live and Cooking at Lizottes in Newcastle, formerly the King's Theatre. I remember going there when it was the Comedy Theatre, had a wow of a night.
Oh, yeah.
I was inebriated when I went home, of course, which is why I had a sore stomach because I couldn't stop laughing. In Lambton, historical Lambton, you've opened the doors. That was an expansion of the Kincumber one that was actually started from the Lees Club.
Yeah, we started at Kincumber Restaurant was just was an extension of the Edelong Club that we left Sydney after the catering in 2000, just before the Olympics. It all got too much. The mobility side of things had to go, and I'd already moved up to the Central Coast, and we decided that we'd kick things back a couple of pegs and just start a little tiny restaurant. And so we started something in the Hardy's Bay RSL Club, and a little very small little club on the Central Coast. And we were the longest standing little caterer there for 6 years. And during that time, Edelong War Memorial Club was also doing an expansion, and they wanted and they asked us if we wanted to do a sister restaurant. So we did that, and that didn't work as well. It was the Chinese restaurant on the first level, and getting people up the escalator of the club was pretty difficult. So they said, what else have you got in your tank? What else have you got ideas? And I went, well, I know the music industry pretty well. And I said, maybe I could do a dinner show here and there to sort of pick up the pace. And so I remember doing Wendy Matthews and Grace Knight and Jenny Morris and a few of those heritage acts in a dinner show mode, and they just absolutely went off. So I reinvented the dinner show, I suppose you could say, because all of our parents used to go to dinner shows all the time, and so they just for some reason lost our way, and that concept of going out and having a nice meal and having to be entertained in your own seats was on its way back. And so we well and truly found that, and so that restaurant lasted for about 2 years, and it just got to the stage where 2 years worth of trying to get, you know, club mentality to meet, you know, just by and large, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So I couldn't run it the way I wanted to run it, and so I said goodbye, and then that's when Kincumber Restaurant came, and we ran that for 10 years. Yeah. I remember my brother, I have to tell you this one though, I remember my brother saying when we started the dinner show concept, you know, when you get some of these heritage acts that have used to work playing in 1,500, you know, or plus venues in the pub days, where they've still got huge crowds and they're not ready to sort of strip back to a dinner show mode. I never forget my brother's attitude towards doing dinner shows. It was pretty. I'm not ready.
It's not.
Don't ask me to do that.
Don't want to play so quiet.
And now we've got some of the biggest names in the whole wide world. Mick Fleetwood, doing our restaurant with a dinner show mode. So it's some of the most special gigs that an act can ever do is in a dinner show mode. And so I knew I was on the right track. And so when Kim came along, and then we thought we'd roll out another one.
You went south after that?
We went north. Yeah, we came straight to Newcastle after Kincumber. Yeah.
So the Sydney, the
Sydney
North
was
Shore
Sydney was the
after
last.
Newcastle.
Yeah, was the last one, and probably, in hindsight, I might, I don't know
Not the
whether
right
that was.
one?
Well, I mean, it was the right area. It was very successful, but it was very trying. Trying to run three, the old concept of having three along the eastern seaboard, turning into 6 and turning into 10 was a great concept and a great pipe dream, but it didn't work out to be successful enough to happen in my lifetime anyway. So we paved the way for other people to do it. And,
that was the catalyst for me being introduced to you. That was the first time I personally met you. I was fortunate enough to play some gigs, both at Newcastle and at Kincumber, with a lovely young lady by the name of Jade Gannon. I played some guitar for her. I believe, tongue in cheek here, I think you were the catalyst, or the stage at Kincumber was the catalyst for me to get rid of the monstrous big guitar rig and strip it down to a little combo. Because I remember being on that stage at Kincumber and a 5-piece band, similar to what you're looking at over at the corner there, a 212 cab, crammed in the corner, and there's the full kit and a singer and a keyboard player and a bass player. And I went, man, I've got to strip my rig back so I can get on the stage.
Lenny, to get 5 on there. That was you had lots of room. We had other, we had many an act up there that would be like, paced to the back wall.
But such a cool vibe.
It was. It's still the Cubby House, as it's affectionately known.
Yep.
It still will go down in history for many, many years as being a lot of the artists' favourite venue, for sure. So I will never closing that place really did hurt. But it was for us at the time, and I'm surprised nobody took it on in the Central Coast, and they're still without a flagship venue for people to play at. So to any great extent, I say that with respect to every other venue that's still out there doing it.
Yeah.
But as far as 5 and 6 nights a week, and supporting the music of the schools and all of the area's local talent.
Which you do a lot of, don't you?
An enormous amount. I'm very proud to be able to do that.
We need to talk after this conversation off air. Again, jumping on the stage where you now call home, at Lambton. That's a beautiful stage, beautiful setting. I felt comfortable to talk to you and ask a couple. We'll come back to the other question later, but I remember getting Mel Murray. Hello, Mel, if you're watching.
Hey, man.
I was a mature age university student, and I had to conduct an interview as part of an accessible task for creative industries. And she said, Mel said, look, I'll give you some tickets. We'll go do an interview with Serena Ryder. I'd never, ever heard of Serena Ryder. Oh, she's fabulous. You'll love her. So I brought my beautiful wife and my daughter down, and g'day, Brian. How are you? Thanks for the effort. Mate, you opened up a door for me there to a world-class musician. I remember there was Matt Anderson.
Great. Matt Anderson was awesome.
He actually was the support act. I'm going, Jesus Christ, how good's this guy? I'm interested to know what the headline act was like, and she just blew my mind. And I was fortunate enough to interview her, a 15-minute interview with Serena. What a lovely, lovely lady she was. And she toured as a support show outside of Blues Fest.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have a lot of artists that come through Lizottes that do a similar thing.
Yeah, we're very, very fortunate in having a great relationship with a lot of the festival and promoters in Australia, because they know that if they're going to do a select amount of side shows, they're looking for a special venue that not necessarily that the act will, that they're not looking to get, a massive amount of people, and it's not all about the financial side of things. It's about seeing the country and going to visit areas. And a successful venue, obviously, that they'll get paid in the ticket price. There's still money to be made for them, but they're not necessarily out to just go in big venues. So we've got a great reputation for being able to look after people, that they know that they're going to get to a world-class venue when they arrive and get looked after. So the promoters really do look after us in a lot of that sense, and we do get a lot of blues festival acts and a lot of the major touring acts, and get quite lucky occasionally. So
yeah, some big names come through there.
For you guys, as the punter of the world, it's a special show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some of the best food I've ever eaten. Like seriously, I love going to Lizottes.
I like to think we're a restaurant
I go
first.
home and I go, oh, just the back pocket's a bit empty tonight, but geez, that was good. We've got a question, Brian. From my beautiful daughter, she must be watching from the comfort of her bedroom. What's the question, Wes? I was going to ask him that, but good question. What is your favourite food, or broadly cuisine, perhaps?
Cuisine. Yeah, well, I don't know whether I've got an absolute favourite cuisine, because when I started cooking, especially for the music industry, it was all about where you want to go and not what you want to eat. Mm-hmm. So we always used to ask the cuisine destination. So you're like, where do you want to go? Bands would throw out Japan, bands would, Spain, Mexico, So, and then I'd go and research, wherever, Venezuela, and I'd have to. There was a few weird and wonderfuls that I'd have to say. I got cooking and lots of different styles of cooking, but I suppose if I had a favourite food, it's favourite ingredients. It's fresh herbs, it's lemon, it's ginger, it's garlic, it's fresh coriander and Asian flavours and fusion. Australian native flavours I'm very
I've
passionate
read about that. Yeah, you've done a few
to try and use
workshops.
as many native and Australian major flavours and foods. I guess, and now I've gone sort of steered away from meat and dairy. So I'm not a strict vegan, but that's where my taste buds are at the moment. Is a lot of like using creative sort of meatless cuisines.
We mentioned that off air about food as medicinal and looking after your body.
It's very important, and touring and travelling with bands was very important to keep them healthy, and that was always you could have sex, drugs and rock and roll was always part of everybody's lives, and or probably always will be, but the good food element, you could just throw that in as well to balance it all out, and it was always a focus on, if I couldn't feed the band well, then I wasn't interested.
Yep, that's excellent. So again, I got comfortable talking to you, and I rang you one day and I said, look, I've started this little music festival up in the Hunter Valley with some friends and colleagues, and it's taken off well. We had McAllister Kemp in our second year, and I was like, this is really cool. I'm a promoter. I'm doing something different. We had some international connections. I said, who could be a good headliner for the Vasey Blues and Roots Festival? So I rang you. I said, is there any chance you reckon we could get Diesel? And it happened. And Mel, actually, it was after I spoke with Mel Murray. She was looking after McAllister Kemp. Called you. We managed to secure Diesel as a headline for 2015. And I remember you asking.
Long ago already.
It was, and I'd like to revisit that one day. It was such a cool time. But I remember you asking me. I think we had a couple of stalls, and you were involved in some project there. And look, come in, do what you want. Can I get up and play with me, brother? You do what you like. Now, the day went swimmingly well, and this is what I was leading to earlier about when you mentioned the trombone. And you were well looked after that day.
Oh, yes,
and
most definitely.
you'd had a few reds,
Oh, had I?
You had.
Gee whiz.
And hey,
Someone like me.
the headline, and look, let me just say, the trio come out, Diesel and the trio come out, and they were sharp dressed, and they performed as good as they looked. They were world class. I'm on the side of stage. I'm looking out of the crowd. I had so many goosebumps. I've got goosebumps now, remembering it.
And that bloody trombone
And then
player came out.
on strolls Brian Lizot, and you'd had a few, mate. I'm telling you, oh, this is going to be good, mate. You nailed it. I did not know. The crowd went berserk.
Yeah, we had a good night that night.
It was a fantastic night. It got cut short after that, but I'd like to revisit that again one day. That was
That was an awesome
Brian
night.
Lizotte.
Great lineup. Yeah, a great lineup for gigs.
Yeah, it was fun, but you performed
Was it
admirably.
Cigars, Ray Beadle, was it?
Ray Beadle, Steve Edmonds,
band.
Justin Enriquez,
Yep.
Dastardly
What a great
Bastards were on, and a lot of
Great
local acts.
lineup.
I think that was the year we had Jodie Doreen come over from New Zealand as
Yep,
well.
yes.
Such a fun day, but you can play.
I'd like to, I'd like to be able to play better than I do, but when I do indulge myself with my brother in particular, I've played on quite a few of his albums over the years, and that's what my background was I did play quite a bit of trombone at some stage, so it's just nice to be able to keep dabbling now and then. I get up with the Black Sorrows on occasions, and a few times, I hope never to stop that.
No, we're all creative. I go nuts if I'm not around music or any sort of creativity. I've skipped a thing, so I'm going to go back. What's the best menu you've designed?
Wow, that's a big long question, that one. Best menu I've designed. I get what the fact that we have to cook so many different menus and so many different cuisines, I suppose. But I guess one of the best menus that I can remember is when I did an SBS Food Lover's Guide to the World menu, and it had all of Australian native ingredients with it, and it was actually a televised show in the end, but it was at a venue, and I'll never forget it. We had to shoot this venue or do this special function because it was the opening or the launch of the SBS Food Lover's Guide to the world, to Australia, and it was a venue in King's Cross, or somewhere around the eastern suburbs of Sydney, and I remember it was a venue that had a rock band the previously 2 nights before or something. It was the Beast of Bourbon. That's right.
Yeah.
It was Tex comes in the Beast of Bourbon. So we got to this room where we were supposed to cook this menu of this fabulous food for for 200 people sitting in a venue where we had to transform the room into a dining room for the night, which we did very successfully and looked amazing with black curtains and special lighting and everything. But I'll never forget the dressing room where we made into a kitchen was actually the Beast and Bourbon's dressing room from 2 nights before that hadn't been cleaned up.
Oh no, okay.
So you could just imagine how long it took us. So I suppose that's probably, and we cooked some fabulous food that night. So very Australian native, and you name it, abalone, and with wild barramundi with green ants, and it was a very interesting and intricate menu that I remember taking quite a while to create the kitchen out of that one.
Awesome, great story. Okay, so some more fine-tuned questions now. You took up the trombone. There's obviously natural ability within the family as playing or performing or being creative. What is your musical background? Have you studied music? Are you self-taught? Is it just a given right that Brian Lizot can play?
Well, as I said, I don't claim myself a very good trombone player. I could have been. I can be a lot better if I practice.
We all could.
I don't practice often enough. And my music background was from high school, so I did read music, and I played in the West Australian Youth Jazz Orchestra for a time when I was a teenager and into my late teens, and So I did learn music, and I don't read music as well as I used to. The more I do it, the better it comes back to me, I suppose. Kind of like the riding of a bike, but unfortunately, I'm still just a little bit, quite a little bit wobbly. But I can get going. But yeah, so it's practice makes perfect. That's pretty much it. It's like my background in music, and unlike where I got my brother who's self-taught, but an incredibly gifted musician. I don't have that special gift. I can harmonise. I've got a good ear for harmonies and whatnot. So occasionally I'll throw my 2 cents into some backing vocals as well. But by and large, I do leave the other musicianship to some of my other members of the family.
So you've heard it here first. We can get session musicians in here. If you're looking for someone to do some good BVs, we can get Brian in.
I'll give it a crack.
Yeah, always.
It's
We've got
a
another
choir.
question. We have a question. Yes? Oh, wow. Okay. This is a hearsay question because I don't want it to ever come to that. If Lizottes, for some reason, had to close for good, who would be the act that closed it out?
Well, I probably wouldn't ask my brother Mark again because he's already closed 2 of the restaurants that we opened.
Okay.
He says, "Brian," he says, "I open restaurants for you. I don't close them," but he did close both of the other 2 restaurants. Goodness me, do I have to pick someone that would close my restaurant? Yeah, I mean, no, I don't.
It's a big question.
Yeah, I'm sorry to whoever asked that question. I'd have to say that obviously it's whoever was available at the time too, and to ask someone to close it would be, I guess obviously yes, it probably would be my youngest brother.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd do that again because he's actually done more gigs in my restaurants than any other artist. So, and because he's family and but amongst the others, I'd like Mick Fleetwood to come back for sure. Throw Macy Gray in there as well.
That's a big lineup.
You just
Hard
Where
question.
do I stop?
But we
Kev
got-
Mo, Eric Bibb. I'd just bring every artist that I've had. It was just, let's just
a
have
week
festival.
closure.
A week, make it a month.
But we could close down the streets of Lambton. There's a
Do
big
it-
park across the
We
road.
could just do it in the Lambton Park, I think. Yeah,
yeah.
big concert venue.
We'd need to.
COVID restrictions aside. Yeah.
There's a couple of questions related to that. We'll come back to that. But have you got a favourite album?
That's another good one. Probably not. I couldn't. My genres of music flows through, and I'm boring on that side. I think I could tell you yes, and I remember it 1 minute and say that was my favourite album. At the moment, I just love Foy Vance.
Okay.
He's an incredible, Irish singer-songwriter and troubadour that I've just fallen in love with his lyrics and his music and just everything about what he writes about and very heartfelt recording artist, and I'm sure a lot of other musicians. He's a musician's musician, and I suppose as far as an album, he's done, just one of the live albums that he's done for sure. But I suppose in a classical sense, or in a classic rock or classic, going back to everything from Chicago to Steely Dan to all that genre of music
Great
as well.
songwriters.
Absolutely, and then then on a jazz sense, back to Miles Davis or something like that, or some cool jazz on that side of things. But I was so tainted by so many different genres of music as a child. I don't have any favourite artist. I honestly can't tell you. People often get that question, what's my favourite show or my favourite artist at the restaurant that we've had so far? And I just have so many memories that'll come floating back, and I get so ecstatic some nights and just go, how lucky am I, and how amazing is this that we've got this small little venue hosting this particular artist, you know.
It's such a great thing for our city. Lizottes is awesome. Yeah. One of my esteemed co-workers at Hannah TAFE, Newcastle TAFE, in the music department, she has a question for you. Karen, if you're watching, here we go. Given and it's a big question, because given the nature of what's happening right now with the restrictions, COVID, coronavirus, however you look at it, you can't escape it. What does the future hold for Lizottes?
Well, I would like to think that the future holds great prospects for continuing to support live music here in Newcastle. I would like to think that the venue, I mean, I have no immediate plans or for the near future of doing anything but sticking with it.
We're just riding it out.
And riding it out for as long as I can. So the future there will be in the hands of what happens to this industry and everybody's health and the health departments that are in charge of the government of this country and where everybody's health goes. That's probably the biggest hurdle we've got to get over. As far as everything else, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
My staff, my wife and I, Joe and I, we're so committed to keep on doing what we've done. I mean, I've spent the last 6 months of my life virtually administratively nightmare of going through painlessly every day, postponing, cancelling, postponing, refunding, crediting, refunding, rebooking, rescheduling. You know, it's just been the most incredible, heart-wrenching experience for people to not be able to go out and just live normal life and just go out and have some social life. I mean, it's the fabric of what we do, and what keeps us happy is to go out and eat good food and listen to great music. It's a code for success and for happiness. So we've been robbed of that for so long now, and the industry, as far as the musicians is out there, we'll always be ready to go and have a stage for them to play on, and always our priority and my philosophy has always been look after the artist, and the rest looks after itself. The customers will always get a great show if the artist arrives at a venue and gets looked after, and they know that they're going to have a great time. The artist is more likely to stay on that stage, perform harder, perform better, perform happier, and it exuberates out to the audience. Well, we've been taking that all away, and now people have been sitting home watching, podcasts and live streaming like this, and hopefully they're not too jaded by it, because it's gonna be around for quite some time yet. But the future is definitely bright. We're not going anywhere, and we're not about to have the venue made into an block of apartments just yet. That's for sure.
That's awesome. How do you stay positive? Like you're a super energetic. I use the word charismatic. I'm a creative type. We're emotional types, and picking yourself up from that. What drives you? Like you get down. Here's another day of drama. How do you keep motivated to pick yourself up? Next day, same old. You get a bit of positive news, and then all of a sudden it's turned back over again.
Oh, it's been tough. I won't deny that. And yeah, I mean, this is probably the most cathartic thing I've done for a week, Lenny. So it is all part of the doom and gloom. Is it's not getting any better at the moment. We're talking, we're Thursday of a week that started off on Monday with 200 metres down the road from the venue that I so much love and so many Newcastles cherish, is suddenly under threat, that we're going to have some sort of repercussion on another cluster in Newcastle or whatever. So it's, thank goodness that we weren't open the night that it happened down the road, and that the contract tracing is all in place, and it's hopefully going to settle down, and we'll be able to get on with it. But at any stage it could change, and it doesn't look so. Yes, it's bloody hard to get up in the morning and have a positive day. And I guess what keeps me motivated is the fact that you just don't stop. I can't just cancel shows. I've got to put one on sale or have someone. And I guess one glimmer of hope was today that one of the high schools here in Newcastle rang and wants to have their showcase for their year 11 and 12 students, and want 2 dates put aside in October. So after losing 5 major shows in a week, then I get these 2 small, high school shows that just give you that glimmer of hope that people are still out there with a positive outlook. And if the school kids can still get out on the stage looking for somewhere to play, it's got to be a good thing. So.
Yeah, I think the preparedness is a big factor there, because there's a never say die attitude, especially in Newcastle. We've been through the earthquake, the Pashabalka, the floods, the April storm that hit about 3 weeks ago. We always bounce back, but the preparedness to be organised enough to hit the go button and just resume the best possible outcome that you can when the go button's ready to be pressed. Yeah.
We've got some great talent in this town, and our live and local Wednesday nights have been the shining light over the last 6 weeks that we've started doing it. And EAO Entertainment has really helped us, along a great company that's is really supportive of local musicians, and we've had everything from ukulele nights, and we just put a Brazilian music night on in October, and it's like, wow, it's selling like a hotcake already. I didn't know that there was that many Brazilians or Spanish, Brazilian music lovers in Newcastle. But obviously we've got so many genres and so multicultural sort of musical clan here in Newcastle that they need places to play in. So I guess if we can provide a safe environment for a limited amount of people, then people are going to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. We have another question, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Fire away, Wes. Now that's what I call networking. That's an awesome question. Jody, thank you for your question. Jody has asked, how can we support Lizottes? How can we support Brian? Is there a GoFundMe page? Is there something that the patronage of Novocastrians and abroad?
Hey Jody,
how can we help you?
Thanks for your question. The GoFundMe is not necessarily good. Go fund your musicians at the moment. That's who needs it even more than we do. We need support from the customers, and just to know that you guys are still out there, and click into our social media, keep in touch with what we've done. Definitely, if you're not part of our database, our e-newsletter every week, definitely be that, and just support when you're ready to go. We got your social life covered, and I guess that's where it is. And it's from the go. As soon as we do have a show that's going to be on, and it will happen, and that's when we need you. Financially, we're ticking along okay. Like everybody's. The government is. We're very, very fortunate in this country. In a position at the moment is that we're all on JobKeeper.
Yeah.
And so, I've got food on the table, and we're ticking along, and my staff are being paid. But it's not going to last forever. So when they do lift this ban and we can start operating like we were before, or even even the heart on to 50% of capacity, we need customers and we need people to come back. So that's how people can help us. Is that or if you've got a ticket that you've bought for a show and it's been postponed or even cancelled, that's where you can maybe just keep it in the credit so that when you're ready to go and we've got your social life sorted, then you can use that. But we're not, we want to be ready to go for people when we can and get back to full capacity.
The finger's on the go button, isn't it?
Always.
Yep.
And we're got the accelerator just turned down a little bit at the moment. It's on a speed limiter, and but when that gets lifted, we'll be putting the foot down for sure.
The aura from you I'm getting right now is enthusiasm, the right priorities. You're answering the questions in the most positive manner. It's bouncing off me big time, and I appreciate it because you're not only are you're intelligent, you're articulate, you've got a good menu. I love the food there. You're just a humble person.
Thanks, Lenny. It's a pleasure to be part of this thing.
Yeah.
I'll be there to support you for as long as I can.
We appreciate the support. I think I've run out of questions. I mean, I could sit here and talk to you all night. I don't want to drop a red, but not tonight. But I just want to thank you again for supporting the Newcastle industry, the local industry, for supporting the state, national, and being just a part of the international music community and the network that you provide to gel it all together. It's amazing. I want to thank you for coming in and supporting our humble studio here, Lizottes Music, because we're green, we're new, and we're marketing to a different crowd. We're not marketing to come and record as a recording studio. It's creative industry mentoring. So if you've got some sort of project you want, where you want to come in, learn how to songwrite, you just want to hire some session musicians, you want to do some video stuff, it's as simple as creating a backing track or some sort of soundscape. We've got you covered. We can do the job, and we've got beautiful people like Brian Lizot that come in and support us. We're really appreciative of you coming in. If anyone wants to come and get in touch with us, please do. Please support Brian Lizot at Live and Cooking in Lambton. I know I'm going to go back there for a show.
Oh yeah, we can't wait to have you back, Lenny. You got your favourite table ready to go, son.
Oh no! Look, we took my.
I'd rather get you on stage though.
Oh, I don't get it. Oh, one day, there's plenty of music in me to come. I didn't take. We took our my father-in-law for his 80th birthday celebrations, and it just so happened that at that period of time, one of his favourite artists was performing there, Ben Jeffries, on a singer-songwriter night with with Max Jackson.
Yeah.
Rod McCormack
and
Gina and
Sally,
yeah, from America.
Yes.
And he had a wowzer night. He did, he had such a good time. We took him backstage and got to meet Gina, and that's all doable because of what you provide us in Newcastle. It's simply.
Well, Gina's coming back with Rod and Max, and unfortunately, that show has been postponed. So September we won't have Gina, but that's been postponed till January, till just after the Tamworth Music Festival. So I think it's we've got to stay positive,
yep.
Lenny, and you're doing things like this and having podcasts and live stream, informative, bringing the music industry together and staying positive is what we have to do together. And find ways to make sure that we have the opportunity to keep going and to keep producing music. Is the main thing.
Yeah. Is there anything before we go with events that potentially are booked in? Something you want to share with the punters to look forward to? You want to market or tell about before we go?
Well, speaking of new music, we've got quite a few different genres of music, but in particular, just in August, and they look like they're going ahead, all to limited capacity. But Steve Balby from Noiseworks and MySex, he's producing a new album, and that's being launched at Lizottes with a live stream as well. And in particular, speaking of my brother Diesel, he'll be producing his launching his new album Sunset Suburbia on the 29th of August as well. So there's 2 shows within a week, both being streamed, and so plenty of choice for people if they can't come out off the couch to support live, up and coming and local and new music. So and that'd be my recommendation, is just to keep supporting new created music that's been created during these times, for everybody out there to just, yes, you can put on your old albums and all your favourites, but don't forget, during these times a lot of musicians have been sitting in studios just like this, being creative, and they need ears and people to listen to their music and support them. So that's my biggest push out there, that if anybody watching, to make sure you support that live local content.
Excellent. Brian, thank you.
My pleasure.
We're going to
Good health
depart.
and stay well.
Thank you so much for tuning in, all 100 of you, 102 perhaps we've got there. We're tuning out over here. Thanks again to Brian Lizot from Lizottes. Mate, it's been a pleasure.
See you all at Lizottes.
If you didn't catch the live stream, it's going to stay up. We'll share it around, stick around. Take an hour of your time to listen to Brian and his humbleness in promoting good food, and not only that, just the creative industries in general. We're going to sign out. Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, Lenny.
Here we are again, destroyed by your sins. Will you not just travel with me for a little while? And on this road we pay, obstructions that are made will only make us stronger in the end. I'll run in your face while you blaze all the thoughts in my head. I'm not dead, I'll just fight till the end of my life. Win or die, it's my blood, it's my life. Won't back down, stand my ground until I get what I deserve. On the road that mends, footsteps that you send into the bleeding heart of the still undead. But hold yourself up high and feel the blinding light of a world that you just shut out of your life.